Mr. Mayor, tomorrow Occupy the City is going to be a huge event. Could you talk a little bit about your inspiration? How did it click in your mind to do something like this?
Occupy the city is just basically things that we do all the time. You know, we have always been marching, organizing, campaigning, building campaigns for either election or uh, campaigns around police brutality or other kind of issues, poverty. So I think that we need something as it relates to crime in the city in terms of the kind of violence that's happening in not just Newark but all over the country, in cities like Newark. You know, the level of violence that's happening is devastating entire communities. Not just the people that are being killed, but the people that are being arrested as well. You know, we're talking about in Newark. You know, we have over 111 arrests this summer already in around gang violence. People have been arrested, and then you had about 17, 18 murders. So if you compile all of that together, you're talking almost 150 some odd people who are taken away from their families, who are people's fathers, their brothers, you know, role models, able-bodied laborers, workers in the city, you know, brain drain. It's a real public health issue. You're talking about generations of people that are devastated by the kind of violence that's happening in these cities, and we need, you know, real help. The police themselves are not the answer to the level of violence that we see. I mean, as you can see, we arrested so many people, and the violence is still occurring. We take, you know, hundreds of guns off the street a year, and we have not been able to get a handle on all of the guns that find their way into the streets of these communities. We have not found a way to fight hopelessness, unemployment, poverty, just the kind of devastation that people live with every single day. And the police by themselves can't do that. And we will hire 450 more cops over 3 years. We will get the state and the county police on the streets in Newark, and we'll suppress crime and suppress violence and get the numbers down. But ultimately, the real answer is the change in culture in the cities, this culture of violence that's turned on each other, the kind of self-hatred and hopelessness that breeds this kind of violence in our community that gets people to shoot one another. I think that while we hold the mayor responsible and we hold the police and the police director responsible, we have to hold each other responsible. Each other's families, blocks. We need to be involved in block organizations. We need to be involved in community groups. There are people on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram now making comments, saying things about each other, saying things about the city, about the police, about everything. But none of these people are in organizations. None of them are part of any organized structure. They're not in the block association. They're not a part of the PTA. They don't come to the police council meetings. They are not engaged in helping us move this city forward. And the whole "I become mayor, we become mayor" means that you have to be the mayor of your block, the mayor of your community, the mayor of, you know, your street. That you have to get involved, and just being on social media is not enough. It's not nearly enough. And so while you hold everybody else accountable, you have to hold yourself accountable. How am I engaged in my community, in my neighborhood, to help improve the quality of life of this community? Which is important. Is why the march is important, so we can raise our voices against the violence and let the world know that, one, there are a bunch of families that are not sitting around being victimized, nor are they engaging in violence, but they are trying to develop strategies to, you know, make their communities better. And this is an opportunity to empower them, you know, to make those things happen that should be happening. And
You speak about violence as a public health crisis. Whenever there's a public health crisis, there are several stages. The first one is triage, where you begin to treat the people that are immediately affected, and then you go into an immunization stage. You immunize people against this epidemic. What is the Occupy movement? Is it the triage statement or place, or is it
no,
more
no,
immunize?
it's this is preventative education, uh, the same way you would do in any kind of, you know, crisis like this, any public health issue. You educate the people on the symptomatic pieces of it, what their behavioral response should be to change the things in their environment, to begin to reverse the susceptibility of the disease in your community, in your area. You begin to say, I have to do this differently. I have to do these things differently. I have to respond this way differently. I have to have certain behavioral and educational changes and social changes that help me become immune to the kind of violence that's going on in the community, or to kind of make sure that it does not spread in your area. And that's, basically what this is give us an opportunity to talk, to educate, to empower people about what's going on in their neighborhood and their community. And there are a lot of people who raise their voice because they're outraged about the violence and they blame everybody, but a rock could point, right? So, the difference between inanimate objects and human beings is that we have the ability to do something about our condition, right? I could point at a problem, but to get involved to help transform that takes a whole nother level of organizing. And some people have not begun organizing at that level. When I was not an elected official and I was an activist in the community, I never came down to City Hall, really, and asked folks in here to do anything. Like, I never got permission to do anything. I did the feeding and clothing jobs. We did after-school programs for young people to teach them about their history, their culture in the community. We did these things. We marched when we needed to. We organized folks when we had to. So we did these things, and we held government and elected officials accountable. And activists should hold people accountable. But on the other side, you have to also build. So building is also important. You have to build institutions, build infrastructure, build systems that help put people on rafts, if you will, to save them, until we can make some real cataclysmic, you know, systemic changes in the city is important. So that's just to say that we need all of these organizations to continue to work and work hard to help us save lives in this city. Um, and saving lives goes a lot further than just complaining about the lives that were lost.
What do you hope the community takes away on Saturday?
Well, I hope they become empowered, that they understand that they have a role, a responsibility, that they organize themselves. They organize themselves to protect themselves, but they also help organize to get people trained, to march them down to jobs, to advocate against poverty, to advocate for better education, to um, yell to federal government that we need an urban Marshall Plan. We need one now. I mean, after World War II, and I mean, after all of the wars, World War I, World War II, after most wars in the world, there's a whole redevelopment, reconstruction period in those countries um, to build countries up, to build roads, to build police forces, to build schools, to build hospitals. We need those things in these cities. I mean, we have a crumbling infrastructure in America's cities. Newark is the third oldest city. Um, we need jobs. We need roads fixed. We need bridges fixed. We need our water system fixed, which is like a $500 million endeavor. We, we need our hospitals built. We need schools built. We need all kinds of things here in this city. We need job training. And the federal government has to invest in these cities, not through the state, but directly to these cities to begin urban revival to attack poverty, because the war on poverty never began. The war on drugs was really a war on poor people. It wasn't really centered around any real systemic and programmatic changes to lift people out of poverty, to lift people out of debt, out of hopelessness, out of the pain that they're going through. And it's important that happens now, and we have an opportunity to push in that direction.
Anything else you'd like to share?
Well, I just want to thank everybody that's coming down to occupy the city, and try to get as many people involved in it as possible. And all of the John Amos, Common, all of those folks that have made a commitment to the city of Newark, and hopefully it means they're making a commitment to attacking this violence all over the country. Wherever you go in America, whether it be Chicago, Cleveland, East St. Louis, East Palo Alto, Newark, New Jersey, Trenton, Camden, any place in America, New Orleans, where there's black, brown, and poor people, there's high levels of violence and homicide and sickness and disease, and it has nothing to do with people's genetics or culture or language or color of their skin. It has more to do with endemic levels of poverty, unemployment, lack of access to decent health care, that drives people into a place of hopelessness, and we have to change that ultimately. Instead of using these crises to get at each other's throat, we have to use these crises to begin to unite and organize with each other to bring real solutions to the problems that we have in our community. And this Occupy the City says that our solution is just not the police alone. While we do need police, we need each other. We need each other, and we need an urban Marshall Plan in these cities immediately.